the cipher I chose to do was the Philips Cipher, and just some general information about this cipher. Much like a lot of ciphers, you're going to want to use a keyword, and similar to the Playfair cipher, you're going to use a 5x5 square, but instead of one 5x5 square, you're going to need to make 8 of them, and general rule of thumb is you omit letter J. And then the purpose of having 8 different squares is that every square should be different. It makes it a little more secure that way. This cipher has 3 different variations to it. One variation is the shifted rows. You rearrange the rows to create the different squares using this method. There's the shifted columns, which you shift the columns to create the squares. And then there's shifted rows and shifted columns. So you shift the rows and the columns in this one. The different methods are generally used based on the length of the message. Shorter messages will tend to use the shifted rows method. Medium length messages will use the shifted columns. And then long messages that you really don't want anyone to figure out will use the shifted rows and shifted columns method. Now for making the first and subsequent squares, you need to cross out any repeated letters in the keyword. So let's say the keyword was Cleveland. You would cross out the second E and the second L because those are the 2 repeated letters. Then you would start filling in the box, the square, with the cleave and. So this is what your first square would look like. And then also, when you're making the squares, something to note is the method of filling the square, because you can go left from right where you reach the 5th square and start over in column 1, or you could snake and continue on under the A and go back to the left, or you could do the spiral method and spiral inward when you're filling in the rest of the alphabet. And then I chose to demonstrate the shifted rows method, so you shift the first row down 1 row to create the second box. Now, what you're going to want to do is keep shifting down the same row until it reaches the very bottom. So Cleveland goes from here, it starts up here, and then it'll move here for the second box, and then it's here for the third box, here for the fourth, and here for the 5th. And then after that, you move down the new first row to finish off creating the set of 8. So this is the 5th box with Cleveland down here, and this row up here. So you just move it down, and move it down, but you don't take it all the way down because this is box number 8, and you only want 8 boxes for this. Now for encrypting, let's say you're going to want to use 5-letter groupings. So use the first 5 letters of the message with square 1, the second group of 5 letters with square 2, third group with square 3, and fourth group square 4, etc. Now, encrypting, although you're using 5-letter groupings, you encrypt 1 letter at a time. And to do this, you move down 1 row from the plain text letter that you're encrypting, and then you move to the right 1, and the letter that you land on will be your ciphertext letter. So, for example, let's encrypt my birthday is in May. The first 5 letters is my and ber from birthday. So what you want to do is you want to find where the plain text letter is. So for M, you go down 1, over 1, so M encrypts to become T. Y, since Y is in the bottom row here, when you encrypt things in the bottom row, they come up to the top row. So Y will become A, and it's the same concept with the right column. if you have to encrypt something from here, it comes over to the left column. So, like I said, the first 5 letters is my burr, and then it encrypts to become Tamara. And for decryption, you have to know the keyword. It's possible to decrypt it without the keyword, but it's extremely difficult to do so. You need to perform the same method of encryption. You have to do the reverse of the method that was used to encrypt it, and that was used to create the box. So you have to make the boxes the same way as well. To do the decryption for the shifted rows, which is what I demonstrated, you go up 1 row and to the left 1 letter, and then that's your plain text. So I demonstrated encryption with the first 5-letter grouping, so I'll demonstrate encryption with the second 5-letter grouping, which is U, Q, E, H, G. So you find U, and since U is in the left column, when you go up and you move over, it'll move over to the right column, so that U becomes T in plain text, Q would be H, E would be D, and so on. So you get the T and the H and the D, and then, so plain text written in the 5-letter groupings is my, burr, and then the day, or you could just read it as it's written in it's my birthday. Now for the security of this, it's really difficult to break because the key could be anything. There's the different encryption methods, there's the different making of the square methods, but it does have one weakness, and that is that squares 1 and 5, although they look the same, they're actually the exact same. And this is also true of squares 2 and 8, because although they look different, you shouldn't quite be fooled by their appearance, because it's not their look that matters, they encrypt the same. So here in square 1, if you encrypt the letter C, it'll become D. That's also true here. If you encrypt C, it comes up and then moves over to become D. So squares 1 and 5 encrypt the same, and this is also true of squares 2 and 8. And this is proven true to be with all 3 of the variations to do the encryption.